Greetings, book lovers everywhere. My name is E-Train and welcome to E-Train Talks. I'm joined today by Salma Hussain. Woo! Originally from the United Arab Emirates, currently a resident of Canada, attorney, yes, you heard that right, more on her attorneyness later. She's a mother, and most recently, the debut middle grade author of The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan, a new favorite novel of mine. Mona, the clever protagonist's personality in The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan, made me smile throughout the entire read and gave me new insights into what it might feel like relocating or starting a new school as a middle grader, as well as so many other important life-changing events, from first love to friendship to family. But I don't want to give too much away. That's the great thing about having the author of the book here with us today. We get to hear firsthand from the person who created this amazing tale. In fact, I've had the privilege of interacting with Salma on social media, and she's been such a positive force. So I'm extra thrilled to talk books with debut author Salma Hussain today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Great. Thank you so much, E. I mean, love the warm welcome. I thank you for your interest and enthusiasm. And as we talk, we have like a mutual love of books here. Yeah. I love the energy you share and the positivity you bring to social media. So it's been wonderful to collaborate with you. So again, I'm so honored and so delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I read The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan so quickly. And when I got that book review out there and I heard all your positive feedback, it just made me smile because I love The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan, and I can really tell where she gets her positive and fun personality from.
Amazing. Oh, I'm glad. You know, I really wanted people to read something funny and fun and something lighthearted. There, of course, The Secret Diary of Mona does definitely cover some heavy topics, but I wanted it to be done in a happy way, or I should say in a humorous way. I think the best thing about kids that we all often forget as adults is that kids remind us to look at the humor in every event, in every situation. They find the positive in what's going on for the most part, right? Yeah. And I wanted the book to mirror some of that optimism and joy that kids hang on to. And as adults, it kind of wears off on us sometimes. But if we can hold on to that as long as we can, I think that's wonderful. So The Secret Diary of Mona, it's a journey. It's supposed to be a fun read. You're supposed to smile through it. You're supposed to laugh at, life's absurdities and its wonders and joys.
Yeah, and I certainly laughed a lot. And I also just found it interesting how you kind of combined humor with just being a middle grader, because that's kind of the scariest times in our lives sometimes.
It definitely is. And I do have, I have two kids. So I have two daughters. So I'm a mom, as you mentioned as well, E. So I see it through my kids' eyes. They're a little bit younger, so they're not quite going through middle school yet. But I see the anxiety creep up as the world suddenly becomes bigger. And as a child, you're adjusting and you're reasserting, who am I in this world? And what is this world? And it is a scary place. Quite honestly, I think adults have somehow made a world that's not always the world that we would like it to be. So I think The Secret Diary of Mona kind of maybe touches on that too and inspires us to think about, well, what kind of world do we want to live in? And who do we want to be in this world? And I think if we can take our sense of humor and keep that intact with us, that will help us a great deal in making the changes we would like to see.
Yeah, those are such inspiring words. And now it's time for my first question. So I did a little research on you, Salma, and I learned that you were in fact an attorney before starting your writing journey. Would you share a little bit about your time as an attorney? Are you still practicing? And if your experience as an attorney helped you with your writing?
100%. I mean, yes, definitely my experience as an attorney. So in Canada, I think law school is relatively affordable to what's available in the United States. So I started out, I did law school, and such a great foundation for writing because you're reading tons of cases, you're reading and doing a lot of writing exercises. The great thing about law school is you're always also encouraged to look at any case or argument from multiple points of view. And I think that really assists when you're trying to craft a good story. You're really trying to understand the perspectives of the different players in any one situation. And I think that creates great insight, great empathy, It used to be, many authors used to start out as lawyers because it's a fairly lucrative profession and gives you some stability and financial security. And that's what I did. I do not practice anymore. I still have my license. So in theory, I could, but I choose not to. And now that I'm a mom, I do find it, I have to say, hard to balance the type of family life I would like with the career life I would like. And the law it's pretty demanding profession. You have to give a lot of hours to it. You have to keep updated on what's happening in the legal field. So it's something, at the end of the day, I have to say I love books much more than I love law. It's come down to that. So, and I can't make time for both.
Yeah. So I definitely agree that practicing law, it can really help you with stories because you have to write from different points of view and different perspectives. Like for instance, Mona Hassan, she's kind of a different perspective than what a lot of authors, what a lot of readers have been used to. Like a lot of authors have to write that way, and they also have to write other characters different from what they've really. It's kind of a lot of the characters are sometimes out of authors' comfort zone. So you have to think through different perspectives and think about what they're thinking, even if it's not really close to what you believe.
Absolutely. Well said, E. Yeah, exactly. That's it, exactly. You have to take bits and pieces of what you see in people and create something new, right? But it still has to feel realistic and authentic as well. So I think that's what I tried to do. We're both sipping on hot water here, or I am anyways, my tea.
So yeah, that's a great answer, and I certainly agree. And now that kind of brings me to my next question. So I read that your daughter actually helped inspire you to write The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan. Can you tell us about your experience and how she inspired you?
Absolutely. So my daughter, at that time, she was 5 and it was bedtime. And now she's 10. But at that time, she was sleepy. It's bedtime. She's going to bed. And she turned around and asked me sleepily, she was like, Mama, you weren't born in Canada, right? You were born outside Canada. Were you a regular kid just like us? And I was so startled by that question because, I'm growing up. My daughter is, of course, born in Canada, but I try to impart my culture a little bit. I speak in a little bit of Urdu, not very fluent, and I was surprised that she would think that I wouldn't be a regular kid. But it really got me thinking, and it sparked the idea for the novel. And I thought, you know what would be wonderful? I would like a fictional kid to answer my real kid's question. Because as a mother, I could tell her the story. I thought, I want a kid to tell that story to her, and let's make this fictional story out of it. And that was the spark for me. And then I thought about all those questions. In what ways are the kids who are born outside of Canada different? Cultures are different all around the world. And you bring that with you, but then there's an authentic core to who you are that stays with you throughout the changes that happen. And I think we see that in Mona. We see a bit of her personality set in the United Arab Emirates, where she comes from, and then she visits her family in Pakistan, so you see her in that situation, and then she comes over to Canada. And I just love the journey that she's on, because I wanted that to mirror the journey everyone's on, and as they get older.
Yeah, I loved her journey because it just kind of Mona Hassan. She's never really like at the start of the book. She's kind of used to where she's at, but in life you can never be too used to a certain point in your life because something drastic is going to happen to you, no matter what. Like no matter how boring you think your life is, something big is going to happen to you. It could be moving from the United Arab Emirates to Canada, or it could basically just you go through a huge bit of puberty, like middle grade. That's kind of what it's all about. There's always going to be something that might happen to you that can kind of change you forever, and I think that really shows in The Secret Diary of Mona.
Amazing. Yeah, that's exactly, that's the experience I was hoping readers would take from it. Certainly, readers are free to take whatever reading experience they want out of it. But I love everything that you said, E. That's exactly, you hope that it resonates with them, because this is a story that's kind of unique and specific to Mona and Mona's character. And yet there's such universal themes about wanting to belong, about making friends, about going through tough and drastic life situations, as you say, which happens to all of us, but stories that we usually keep closer to our chest. And yet there's so much value in sharing with others, because when we look at another person's journey, it gives us hope for our own journeys. And that's such an important thing.
It really is important. And that's what I loved about The Secret Diary of Mona. You just kind of, It's just the sort of book that you need to read because like there's so much that happens and like it's kind of all put into one book, 1 year, but so much happens to Mona that like it kind of feels like it could be a whole decade. And that's kind of just what life is all about. Sometimes things can happen to you that you least expect, and that's what happened to Mona.
Yeah, exactly. It's packed with a lot. There's a lot of issues here. It moves fairly quickly. I wanted it to cover 1 year in her life. So everything's happening and you're just along for the ride with her, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it was a very fun ride. So it sounds like The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan is based a lot on your experiences. How much of your life did you incorporate into your read and how much is fiction?
Great question, E. And I've been getting this one a bit. So I will say, you know what, I will say 50-50. So, and what I mean by that is, of course, the broad general arc of the story completely mirrors my own immigration story. So I'm Pakistani, I'm Muslim, I was growing up in UAE, then I moved over to Canada, almost exactly. I was a little bit older than Mona was. So that's where some of the differences come in. Also, my own life was relatively boring and very sheltered. So I had to introduce some fun stuff. So I never pulled a fire alarm. I never dressed up in a chicken suit. So some of those specifics didn't happen. But I did meet some of the people, some characters that are inspired, but some people that I met that inspired the characters in Mona's book. That happened. So yeah, so in the end, I say 50-50 because it's really hard to write a memoir because that would have been super boring. No one would have wanted to read it. And so I had to fictionalize quite a bit. And I think there's somebody more famous than, who has said that writers write fiction to get at the truth of something. And I think that's so true because none of this really happened to me in the way that it's described in the book. And yet there's a very authentic, emotional truth to it that speaks to my experience, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. I've noticed a lot of authors, like, they write fiction, but it's not necessarily fiction to them. It's kind of like their story just in a different way.
Like that's absolutely it. That's absolutely it. Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to my next question. Like lessons that you take away. So what are some lessons you hope readers will take away from The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan?
First and foremost, I really wanted readers to smile and laugh through this journey. I want readers to think about, you know, the fact that Mona has a certain character and she sticks to it throughout, you know, so when she goes through the challenges in her life, her energy and her spirit stay intact. And I hope that's something that readers can take with them as well, that they can look at challenges in life as not just as a burden to be endured, but maybe a comical, absurd moment that they can take and share with others and lighten their load. The last thing I really do hope that readers take away, though I'm also very hesitant to say anything, because I'm like, take away whatever you want, you know, no judgment, like the story should work for you as it will. But one thing I do hope it reminds all readers is to remember the core of who we are when we are young. When we are 9 years old, let's say 5, 9, and 11, 12, those are our core ages. Those are who we are at the core of our being. And let's remember that. And let's not let the reality of the world or the hardness of the world rub off our innocence and our joy and optimism for how wonderful the world can be. So that's what I hope we all remember, our inner child.
That is so beautiful. And I do think that we should always remember like our childhood and just who we are. Because like life can bring a lot at us. It can be super scary. Like a lot of things are happening all over the world that are really scary and it's hard to grasp.
Yeah.
But we should always kind of find the joy in our experiences. Like a sad event, it's not necessarily joyous, but we have to kind of like smile. Because we can't just be sad our entire lives.
Yeah.
That we're happy. We need to experience joy because we can't be sad all the time.
I completely agree. And you know what I would just add on top of that is that yes, 100% there are bad things happening and it's really scary and sad. The media does not counter enough to show us the happy, good things happening because they are happening simultaneously, and that's the absurdity of life. Everything's coming at us so so fast and furious these days, we really have to focus and we really have to stay grounded in our joy, because it's really hard. It's really easy to get bogged down by despair. So I think if any small piece of writing in a book can transport you elsewhere for a few seconds or a few minutes, then I think that's wonderful.
I certainly agree. I see my dad reading newspapers, and like never once do I see him smile. There's always all the media just talks about the bad, but we always have to see the good in life.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, somebody started a newspaper called The Good News, and it has some subscribers. We need more good news. We honestly do. I mean, they exist. The good news is happening. The good stories are happening side by side. So let's focus on them a bit too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I'll have to check out that newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
So now my next question is, are there any characters in your book based on real people in your life?
Yes, honestly, each and every character in The Secret Diary of Mona is based on a real life person that I've met. Or 2 or 3 people mashed into one. So yeah, everybody from the cousins that Mona plays with, to the teachers she encounters, to the friendships she makes, everyone has a basis in reality. It's just, I think, how I write. This is my first book. My first published book, and I've drawn heavily from the characters I've met in real life to create those characters in the book. So yeah, each and every one.
Yeah, I love when authors kind of take a piece of themselves into their books, because you can really tell that the story is relatable and that they just kind of love it. Like, it's not just a fantasy read, it's kind of, and like, even though it's fiction, it's still them, like it's a part of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and I really do hope that this isn't your first and last book. I really do hope that you write more published books, because you got your first one out of the way, and I'm so excited to see what's next.
Oh, that's very sweet. And they do say the first one takes you the longest, and it was a bit, because we were also, any of us who have books coming out in 2022, we were writing through the pandemic, and it felt like a hard time to write, because again, we were very inundated with bad news, right? And there was no escaping it. It was like all over you all the time. So let's see. I hope so. I mean, I definitely will continue writing. We'll see what happens. I'd love to work. I'd love to write more stories surrounding Mona's life. I'd love to do a secret diary of Tutu Hassan, her younger sister, who never got a voice and didn't get much in this book. So maybe, we'll see.
Like Tutu kind of stole Mona's notebook, and now she's writing her experiences.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I would like to do. I'd like to be able to create a very unique character, Tutu, who's different from Mona in some ways and similar in other ways. But we'll see if I can actually pull it off. Easier said than done. We'll see.
Yeah, it feels like it's a whole new book, because like it's like your first book all over again.
That's right. Exactly.
So I know that this is a question that you really wanted people to ask you, so here goes. What do you think Mona Hassan would be up to now?
Yes, you have done your research, I will say. That's a great question. I was curious myself, where would Mona be in life? And I saw her, I actually even tried as a writing exercise, writing her as an older person. And I saw her writing a book of poetry and trying to publish it, and no one's interested because she writes terrible poetry, but she enjoys it. And I saw her gardening and trying to look for a home in a big city, and she was house hunting. That's about as far as I got. And I love the question, because in my mind, what I rested on then eventually, I was like, you know what, Mona's still searching. She's still searching for home. She's still searching for a sense of belonging, and she's still on a journey. And I think that's what's the best thing about Mona, is that she's always on that journey. She's still optimistic, and she doesn't lose her sense of faith that everything's going to work out.
I remember at one point in The Secret Diary of Mona that so Mona read some poetry, and she thought that it wasn't good because like she thought that all poetry had to rhyme.
Yes.
So I think that that's it's very symbolic, because like not all poetry has to rhyme, just like our life can't be just perfect. It has bumps, it has ups and downs. I think that kind of rubs off. And I think that's a very important message. Like, it's small, but I noticed it and I took it to heart.
Oh wow, that's such a great interpretation, such a close reading. You're absolutely right. You know what? That's a great metaphor for how life is lived. It doesn't have to be lived within certain rigid boundaries, right? And
Yeah.
the poetry reflects that. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. I love that.
Thank you for writing that. So, what was the hardest part about writing The Secret Diary of Mona?
I think the hardest part, honestly, was trying to rein in all the different subplots that were happening in the story, because you have Mona going through the Gulf War, which is set a little bit earlier in the 1990s. She's also dealing with colorism, which is an issue in the South Asian community, where in the story starts off with Mona's mom wanting her skin to be a bit lighter, which is just a common thing that happens in South Asian communities for us. So there were a lot of these issues. And then there's also puberty, right? And friendships and all of those things. So balancing all of that was difficult, and deciding how much time to give each issue was also something I, struggled with. And at the end of the day, I was like, okay, let it just be a vignette. This is her life. Not everything has to be resolved in a nice, easy bow and tie. It's just a vignette of her life as she's passing through it.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of it. Like, because some events, like, they don't have to flow perfectly. That's not what life is like. Sometimes somebody may focus on puberty more, or other times maybe in different communities people might focus on different aspects of their life. So I think, yeah, it's a common metaphor in The Secret Diary of Mona. Like, nothing is perfect, and you just kind of have to keep going and just living your life and letting it flow with you.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Like, life is just throwing all these things at you, and you're just managing and dealing and going through the flow and doing your best to power through it. And that's just how kind of mirrors how life works.
It definitely does. So, are you working on any other middle grade writing projects, or just writing projects in general currently?
I'm always tinkering with a lot of different things. So yes, I'm trying to tinker with this. I'm calling it the secret notebook of Tutu Hassan, because I don't think she'll be somebody who does the diary in the same traditional way that Mona's been doing it. So I'd love to do that. I'd love to see if that kind of comes together. I was working on a book of poems as well, but we'll see if anything happens with that. And I was working on a short story of two friends going on a trip to California. I think maybe because I was dreaming of something warm. Toronto has just wrapped up its cold weather. We're heading into springtime. That's it. No, I've been trying to take it a little bit easy, and doing a lot of reading, though, I will say.
Yeah, I do too much reading. I have all these stacks.
I've seen your books. I saw the picture of you with so many books. I was like, wow, this kid really loves reading, which is great, because you know what? At your age, I was doing that too. I loved books. I was like, yeah, so I read anything and everything. And I wish I could do more of that, honestly. So hopefully, yeah, this summer I want to do more of that too. Why not?
Also, I saw in a video, so somebody was showing a video at an independent bookstore, like they saw their novel in the bookshelf, and then something that caught my eye was I saw The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan too, and it made me smile, like, hey, that's Salma Hussain's book. I loved it so much. I'm so glad people are finally seeing it, and it's in bookstores, and it's getting the recognition it deserves.
That's very sweet. That's so sweet. Thank you so much for saying that. Oh my gosh, wow. I really have to thank your parents. You are such a great kid. But no, it's very exciting. The book only came out last week, May 3rd, it came out, because you did read an advanced copy. You're such an advanced reader. Okay, I don't have it here with me, but okay, the book came out last week. So I had the launch event just on Saturday. So that's it. I mean, it's out. Let's see what happens. I don't think the story's for everyone. I do think you have to be a little bit more older. It's upper MG. You have to be a bit mature, a bit intelligent. This is a different representation of a girl that we're getting, and a sassy, feisty girl who speaks her mind. And you know what I hope? I hope it finds the readers it needs to find. And that's all I really want. And I think writers also say if they hit one good reader, they're happy. And I think I found my one good reader, so I can't ask for too much more. And I'm just so glad that you loved it. That fills me with a joy that I cannot explain and actually put into words well. But it's a wonderful feeling to really touch even one person is such a joy and such an honor, honestly.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've done what I needed to do with it. It touched one person. E-Train is happy. I'm happy. That's it. I don't need to market and promote. Let me just sit and enjoy and read my books.
Yeah, and it definitely did touch me. It touched on topics that I'm not really used to, and that's what I love about middle grade.
Yeah, middle grade is such an exciting genre, I have to say. You get a little bit of everything, and there's a lot of fantasy in middle grade. There's this contemporary realistic fiction in middle grade. Middle grade's hitting on important social issues. It's doing humor books. It's doing a little bit of everything. There's novels and verses. It's a very innovative, exciting area of literature. And I'm delighted that I get to be part of it as well through this book.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you responded to my tweet and I found The Secret Diary of Mona.
Well, actually, yeah, no, I'm so glad you responded to my tweet. You were so eager and I was so impressed. I was like, wow, he's so enthusiastic and has the interest to read this. I was like floored because you were hit with so many messages. You could have easily said, oh, sorry. And I would have totally understood. I was like, there's no way he can get through this many books. I wasn't even sure if you would respond to my tweet, but I was like, let me just send it out. Maybe he'll see it. And you did, and you showed interest. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that you reached out. Like, I tried to respond to every single person. It was very hard, but your novel, it caught my eye. It really did.
And that really speaks to your taste, and I think that's another small side issue that Mona touches on, like us reaching out and reading books from other voices and other perspectives that we're not used to and going outside our comfort zone. Isn't that what reading is all about? And when I was a kid, I remember as a kid reading books from places that were outside my comfort zone. And I was always super curious. I was like, how are other people living lives? Do they think the same as me? What do they eat? What do they do? Yeah. So I was always very curious about that. And I love to see that reflected in you as well. And I love to see that young readers today are just as curious as we are when we are kids. We're very curious about each other. What is that person up to? What's that person doing? What do they think? And again, we lose some of that curiosity as we get older, but it's too bad because it enlivens and then it enriches our lives to find out more stories about each other.
And on the topic of reading, what are you currently reading?
Oh, so I saw you were celebrating Jewish Heritage Month. So I'm going to highlight 2 books from Jewish authors. So this is Water, Water. If you're interested, I should get you a copy of this. This is also by a Tundra author. And his name is Gary Fagan, and he is Jewish, and he wrote this book. I think you would really like it. I can arrange to have a copy sent to you. And it's beautifully illustrated. It's a story about a boy who wakes up one morning and finds himself surrounded by water.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah, and it's really sweet. I would say it's a very charming, soothing read. So even though it's about a boy who's, by himself and his dog, and his bedroom is floating on water, for some reason I found it really soothing to read. So
water is soothing to me as well.
We'll talk afterwards, or I'll send you an email and get you a copy of this.
Thank you.
And that also just came out this month, or was it last month? I'll have to find out. The other thing, so I just finished Water, Water. What I'm reading right now for fun is this classic,
I love Shel Silverstein's books.
Yeah, and I really love this. And this is such a fun book. And I have to say that because I've been stuck in a bit of a writer's block and kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I writing? Is it good? Is it not good? And those feelings of self-doubt. And then I pick up something like this and I read Shel Silverstein and I'm just like, he was just having fun, he was just enjoying language and just making you smile. And there's something so liberating about that. So I'm just going back to this and rereading it and rediscovering it, which is a great book, I think, for anyone who's stuck and just wants to enjoy reading something fun. So those are
Yeah,
the
that's what writing and reading is all about, just having fun and just that's why books and that's why books were created.
exactly. And sometimes we forget, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
now I'm in that panic mode where I'm like, are people reading my book? Are they liking it? What's gonna happen? I'm like, okay, relax, relax.
Yeah, well, I
Reading,
certainly love it.
reading is supposed to be fun. Writing is supposed to be fun. So great books to showcase. Well, we do that. So that's what I'm up to. Do tell me, what are you reading, E? Can I ask you?
Yeah, you can definitely ask me. Oh gosh, there's so many books.
How are you doing this, by the way? Like, are you homeschooled?
I
How do
am
you? Oh,
homeschooled.
you are homeschooled. Okay,
Very
so
beneficial. Next year I'm
yeah,
gonna start public school, but I'm just glad that I got 1 year of homeschool. I'm able to do all of this book review stuff and interviewing, so I think
you
that's
probably learned so much during this 1 year than you would have in like 5 years of school.
thank you. So what am I currently reading? Let's look at that huge pile that's very scary. Well, I currently have so many books to review that I'm not really my mom doesn't really want me reading any books.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But I'm backed up a little bit, but I just finished. Okay, that fell. I'm gonna edit
Oh,
that
yes,
part
I
out.
saw this on your Instagram. Tell me about it.
So it's 13 different authors, and they all write books based, like the name is the stories.
Yeah.
They're all middle graders. They all go through different experiences, and all it's so interesting. It's like all in different settings, all in different time periods. I think it's just one of the coolest and most out there Jewish heritage books I've read. Um, so
Amazing. And so these are short stories?
yeah, they're all short stories about like 10 or so pages long. They're all just really powerful, and they all like they what they say, it's like it's only around maybe like it's not too many words, but like one word says 1,000 words. One page says like a million.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Totally going to pick that up because I love the idea of reading 13 stories and getting like a novel worth out of each experience. And again, as we were talking about being curious about what are other people thinking? What are they doing? That's a great book to, pick up to get a whole bunch of different characters and stories. Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Thank you for that recommendation.
So I know your daughter was the inspiration for The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan. Was there anyone else who inspired you or influenced you to start your writing journey?
Great question again. Yes, for this one, I will say shout out to my mother and Mother's Day just passed, but definitely my mother encouraged my love of reading. And my mother herself is a bit of a writer as well. She always wrote in secret, didn't publish anything and never like finished something, but she's a writer nonetheless. And she loved taking her life's experiences and distilling it and fictionalizing it and turning it into something readable that you could share with other people. And she certainly encouraged a love of reading and reading across genres, reading across age groups. So I would say, yeah, my mom was the big inspiration there. You need somebody to support you. And somebody to encourage you. And they always say at least just even one person is enough. And I feel for me, that was my mom. That was the one person I needed. And I got that support from her, which was lovely.
Yeah, my mom does the same thing. She's so supportive. And I like to think that anybody's a writer. Like, it doesn't matter if your book is published or not. Anybody's a writer who like dares to write what they want.
Absolutely, yeah. The publishing, like almost at times, I don't know if you even need it, but yeah, many of us are writers, and it's such a lovely thing we get to do because it's an experience where we're sharing with somebody else, and we're creating to share and to bring somebody joy or happiness or understanding or create empathy. It's a lovely thing we get to do. It's a privilege, and I'm happy that I get to do it.
Yeah, and I'm happy I get to talk with you today. And like, it's thanks to writing. It's thanks to the writing community. Like, that's what I love. Like the Twitter writing community, you're all so supportive of each other. And it's hard to believe, like, because I see all this stuff about, like there's dark news, but just checking out the writing community on Twitter and seeing what you're all up to just makes me smile.
Oh, yeah. And that's so true. I mean, I think it's important to create those bubbles for ourselves, right? Those bubbles of safety or those bubbles of community where we're like, whew, let's take a breather from what's happening and remember that there are humans all over the world who love and care for each other and want to support and uplift each other.
Now it's time for my final question, the question I ask every single one of my guests. If you could be or meet any character in any book, any time period, just any book, who would it be and why?
Such an excellent question. And when I saw this question, I was like, oh my gosh, who would I be? Because I've always envisioned myself being an author that I admire. Like, I would love to meet authors that I admire. I'd never really thought about who's a character I would like to be. So I think this was an absolutely great question. And I'm going to say that I would like to be the Rose from The Little Prince. The Little Prince is one of my favorite books. When I was younger, I didn't think this was such a great book. I was like, oh, that's such a simple story. I don't get the appeal, but I really love it as an adult. I love the rose in the story. I mean, you really have to read the story to appreciate it, but I think I would love to go back and be the rose and give the appreciation to the little prince that he doesn't feel that he has, because it feels like the rose is ignoring him or neglecting him. Anyways, it's a sweet story. I love it. So I think I would choose
very sweet.
Very sweet. I think I choose to be the rose and just kind of fix their ending a little bit would be wonderful for me to do. It's a beautiful story. So yeah, that would be my answer. And I'm so curious to know your answer if you want to share.
Yes, I'm so glad somebody finally asked me. And I would definitely want to be a rose. Like, roses, in my opinion, are kind of healing. And okay, my answer.
Yes.
I've thought about it a lot, just waiting for somebody to ask me. And the character I would want to be or meet, I want to meet Mona Hassan. I'm not just saying that. I would want to meet her. I love her optimism and enthusiasm. She's just somebody that, like, she always looks on the bright side of everything. And that's something I really admire. She's a character I not only just love all the characters in all the books I read, but she's someone that I admire in a way that I haven't really felt in many other books that I've read.
I know, sometimes I think that too. Wouldn't it be fun to be at Mona's school and just be in a group of friends be friends with her? Because she would just take every situation and make it hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to be on the basketball team with her, stealing the ball from her. But I agree. I think that band of kids living in a small town in Nova Scotia would be a fun band to join. Who else? Give me another character.
Okay, another character. It would let's see.
I mean, and it's okay if
I do have some characters that I'd want to be. Just too many. I have to kind of decide. So based off, I want to do a character that I've recently read because it's like kind of more fresh in my mind. So I'm thinking a character that I would want to be is Polly Murray. I read Polly Murray, The Life of a Pioneering Feminist and Civil Rights Activist, and her words are so powerful, and they make you feel seen. Like, she said what everybody was thinking, but didn't have the power. They didn't have like the soul to say it. They just she spoke what was on everybody's minds, and I think that's something that it's really important. Like, having that one person who just knows what you're thinking. It's like, I would want to be friends with her. I would want to be her. I want her confidence, her courage, and her just her strength.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I had to write that down because I was like, let me write down this writer and this character, because I'm going to look it up and I'm going to read that. So thank you. I've gotten some good recommendations from this interview.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an honor. It's been a treat.
It's mutual. It's mutual. I'm so glad you made time for this. You are wonderful. Thank you for your support. I love that we're getting to meet each other, even if it's through Zoom. If you're ever in Canada, if you and your family are ever traveling to Toronto, let me know. I'd love to host you guys for tea. Some Thai and samosas would be great. And keep doing the great work you're doing. Honestly, you're adding, and this part can be edited out, but you're adding a great, important voice in social media, and it's encouraging. I think the more of us who can stay on, it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. I'm impressed, and I feel tired just looking at all the work you're doing. I'm like, wow, how does he manage it? But thank you for your efforts. They're very appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me. Your story is just so inspirational, like your story and The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. Honestly, it's been fun. I think the story hits on some harder to say things as well, and you really have to read the book to appreciate it. But I feel, you know what? Maybe if it pushes the door open even slightly a crack in the right direction, then so be it. And hopefully we keep opening that door a bit wider and wider, and let's see what happens. Let's see.
Yeah, and just me, I've learned so much from every single page in your novel. I'm learning about topics that aren't really discussed in middle grade, that aren't really discussed in any book. You have the power to just say what's on your mind, and I listen, and I'm just, wow, it was a great book. And learning about you as a person, it's just even better.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, you know what? I think I hope it empowers people, because everyone has a story. Most of us have stories that we cannot say for whatever reason. But anyways, let's hope we all have the strength and courage of Mona to say what we want to say.
Yeah.
And onwards to more and more stories from each of us.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about Salma's middle grade novel, you can listen to my book review of The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan on E-Train Talks, or you can listen to other interviews Salma's taken part in, including one by MG Book Village. And Salma's on Twitter and Instagram. She's very active, and she's one of the most supportive forces on Instagram and Twitter that I've really ever been in touch with. She's amazing, and I know that you'll think that she's incredible once you get to talk to her, and like, you need a copy of The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan. I'm not just saying that, you need one.
Thank you so much, E. This is amazing. I'm glad we've connected, and we're going to keep connected.
Yes.
We're going to pass on our reading recommendations to each other. I've already got 2. I'm going to try to send you a few more copies as well. I'd love to know what you think. And let's hope and keep continuing and talking about and sharing our love of literature with each other.
Yes, and I have so many recommendations. I'd love to learn like what style of writing you enjoy, and I can send you some recommendations. I can send all of you listening recommendations. Just contact me, etraintalks@gmail.com, and I can give you. I have a whole bookshelf of books. Like, I'm not just saying that. I've read every single one, nearly. I have so many recommendations for everybody, and yeah, just stay safe and happy reading as always. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much. Thank you.